Water polo in Northern California's East Bay would not be what it is today without Ron Richison. Richison is as familiar to the region's water polo families as a trip along the 24 freeway. He first put his stamp on the sport at the high school level, coaching first at Valle in 1965 before moving on to Campolindo in 1969. 3 North Coast Invitational titles and a Foothill Athletic League crown followed until Richison pivoted to Acalanes High School in 1984. At Acalanes, his teams flew even higher, claiming 3 CIF pennants and a 1987 California State Championship. All the while, he was busy growing water polo as a club sport in the region. In 1968, he joined Picatino's Concord Water Polo with the help of Steve Heaston, and they built it into a powerhouse that's continued today, known as La Miranda. Richison's teams produced a staggering 22 high school All-Americans, 24 eventual NCAA champs, and 9 Olympians. When he's not spending time with his grandchildren, the now retired Richison swims laps and remains a supporter of high school water polo in the East Bay.
I consider him the pioneer of water polo for our area. He and Picatino, who were the coaches of the Aqua Bear swim team at that time, had introduced water polo to the swimmers. Probably once every week or every 2 weeks, they'd throw a ball out there and start teaching water polo. As a result, La Miranda, Walnut Creek, Moraga, Arinda, those high schools started water polo in 1967. And if it wasn't for Ron, it would have been years later before water polo came into our area.
He was more of a tactician in water polo and a technician in swimming. But both are really important, I think, for development. You know, Ron was tough, demanded a lot. He wouldn't let us do the hard work unless it was done correctly. And, you know, this is an underlying theme maybe for those who have worked with Ron. He didn't mix any words. He was incredibly direct, but he spent so much time communicating with us that we knew he, you know, however it came out, we knew he cared, and it motivated us.
My junior year in high school, that's when I became a Ron Richison player, and he was pretty good about separating coach and dad. But when I was about 9 or 10, that's when I started getting interested in the game, then starting to meet the guys, you know, the seniors, the 18-year-olds that he was coaching, and seeing how much success they were having. And then you hear about stories, Craig Klass, John Svensson, guys that were really great water polo players, becoming household names. And Kirk Everest was in the Olympics, and McNair, Keeley, they were the Olympians, and now I'm following in this legacy. And when I was 15 and 16, I fully realized this is the legacy of Ron Richison, is those guys.
Just his ability to teach was the thing that really stood out, and you know, everything we were learning was new, but it was successful working right away. So the fundamentals, of course, but when he was coaching, he would give us the freedom to make mistakes. And you know, he might not be happy in the moment, but there was one point I remember specifically where he said, "When in doubt, just let it rip." And that was kind of this philosophy that we had. So, you know, instead of worrying about doing everything perfectly right, we had some freedom to be creative and play the game to the best of our ability. And I think, you know, his passion for the game was so contagious that, you know, I mean, it really carried me from those early summers on into, you know, playing in college and going from there.
In order to coach against Ron, I had to improve my coaching style. I had to understand strategy, because Ron was a wizard. The pool at Campolindo where he coached was maybe 12 yards wide and 20 yards long. So you have to be, and he was very creative, and it was very difficult to win against him. He's the one that set the bar high. I had to learn how to coach under all situations because that's what he was good at.
Coach Richardson has a reputation of his own. He coached Campolindo High in the same league for 16 years before coming to Acalanes, and his team never finished worse than third.
Everything we do is we double team together, and we run a very good team defense, and I think that's the major reason for our success.
You know, he impacted a lot of our lives. I mean, he was a big presence, and he taught us a lot about not just water polo, but about life and about, you know, being good people. And I think maybe he thought he could have a bigger impact doing that at a younger age in high school and in the club. And Ron was basically a second father figure to look up to, and someone, you know, who knew had your back. You know, us that played for him fortunately had that.
Freshman year, making some bad personal choices, I was, and Ron heard about it and very directly said, if you continue along this line, you won't play water polo or swim for me at Campolindo. And right then and there, I shifted the friends I was hanging out with. I made some personal choices, and that little moment really changed the direction my life was going. And his work with me meant so much. I got a gold medal in swimming, 2 gold medals at swimming at the Pan American Games in 1975. And when I got home from that trip, I gave one to Ron because of the impact he had on my life.
I think I was a sophomore in high school, and we had to play against his team, and I played probably the best game I'd played as a young athlete in water polo, and so now you got to go through and shake his hand, and he congratulated me so genuinely, and he said, class, you know, good job, but it was more than that, and it was almost as if I'd been playing for him that day. He was so proud of that performance, and very thankful and appreciative of all of, you know, dedicating his life to water polo.
It was never really about wins, and I don't know anybody that can say, oh, he had 500 wins in his career. Nobody knows. But the success of the 1986 team is probably one of his prouder moments, but he takes just as much pride in when a team was seated 3rd or 4th in North Coast and ended up taking 1st or 2nd. Those teams meant as much to him as winning a state championship. And what makes me proud is the legacy that he's had. The people that I still see on the pool deck. As a referee, I run into coaches that played for him. So being able to see that even though he's not on the pool deck, there's a lot of people that are still impacted, still love the game of water polo, and it goes back to playing water polo for Ron Richison. So congratulations, Dad. We are so happy that you're in the Hall of Fame.